everyone. I am Zishan Pathan, Director of Client Services with RightSource Global and a Council member of Global Thought Leaders. I welcome you all to the Spotlight series of Global Thought Leaders, an initiative by RightSource Global. To make the conversation more engaging, I have my colleague, friend, and a Council member of Global Thought Leaders, Keval Mehta, the Chief Growth Officer with RightSource Global. Global Thought Leaders is a platform for industry stalwarts to share their experiences, thoughts, and ideas to inspire future leaders. Through Spotlight interviews, Global Thought Leaders strive to bring the community of eminent personalities together from across the globe. We bring the expertise of various functions, roles, and sectors together on one platform to inspire future leaders. We have one such industry stalwart today on the Spotlight with us, Shekhar Tiwari. I would request Havel to introduce our today's eminent personality, who is the doyen of the supply chain industry. Over to you, Havel.
Well, thank you so much, Zishan, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to introduce Shekhar. Well, I'm sure everyone will agree to this that Shekhar does not require any introduction. However, even to talk a little bit about Shekhar, it's an honor, privileged. Shekhar is a specialist in his field of supply chain operations, having been in the industry for almost 30 years now. He has climbed up the professional ladder, having started as a coordinator of supply chain at Procter & Gamble, all the way up to his current position as the Managing Director, Supply Chain and Network Operations at Accenture. The immense experience he has acquired over the years of his innate managerial abilities reflect very clearly in the work he has done at three of the best MNCs in the world, and that is Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, and Accenture. A charming individual who tackles every problem with a smile on his face, Shekhar Tiwari's colleagues would highlight his positive attitude and team spirit as his best two features. He is proactive planner, skilled negotiator, and innovative strategizer, managing large teams in global setups with more than 2,000 members across different level and geographical locations. He can create a cohesive and conducive work environment for his team and enhances everyone's productivity, creativity, and delivery. His track record is impeccable, having evolved successful operational procedures, streamlined workflow, and increased revenue. Shekhar is chiefly engaged in the accountability of delivery operations and profitability by overseeing operations that involve strategic management, business operations, people development, and value creation. This is a small and a quick introduction about Shekhar, but I'm sure everyone who will be listening to this session will learn and know more about Shekhar Tiwari. So thank you so much, Shekhar, for giving us an opportunity to ask you something and to learn a lot from you today.
An honor and pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure along with me, everyone on the who is viewing this video is would really want to know that Shekhar, coming from a humble background, what really drove you to become a synonymous personality to supply chain in the industry?
Oh, wow. That's actually a very interesting question, and kind of summarizes the career journey also, right? I mean, my dad was in state government jobs, right? So we were in Chhattisgarh and MP, traveled across practically. And by the time we reached Bhopal, I was completing my graduation. I had completed my graduation and looking what next lies. And that's when I got into NIIT, and system analysis and design kind of a profile attracted me big time. I'm not a programmer kind of person, and IT was, that job was kind of difficult for me. So when I got an opportunity to work with P&G, though there was a kind of option to get into IT, I chose supply chain because that, attracted me, and something so many people have said in so many different or simple ways, and that if you like something and you're doing that as your job, the chances of succeeding is much better, right? But being a completely fresh graduate, I think the first and foremost, I've been lucky and blessed to get into an organization like P&G, getting a boss like Shyam Ramamurthy, Luis Santos, Atul Tripathi, Ajay Shankar, Venkatraman, PV we used to call him, right, and Millie Edgar, right? they kind of, started talking about a lot of thought leadership, what needs to happen. And PG, as you know, is the industry leader. And then it kind of hits you saying that, oh man, you're starting from a kind of, they're like way apart, right? Way too great. And you need to learn a lot, right? And I think, when you're into that situation, you're learning while working, but you'll have to upgrade your qualification. And that's where Sham kind of encouraged me to get into a material management course, which I did it from IIM Bangalore. And then, while working with Pepsi, they exposed me to IIT Delhi with a distance learning course. And then with Accenture, multiple, let's say, leadership intervention, the seminars, right? And when you start meeting and leading, talking to those leaders, you start looking up to them, right? Saying that, oh my God, this is like this. And combination is, one is the subject matter expertise. The second is obviously your, let's say, the softer skills. But at the heart of it, or at the helm of it, or, at the center of it is just your never say die spirit, right? Or let's say, I want to be one, right? What worked for me is having a 1 to 3 year kind of a plan, right? And try working with that. What I mean by that is that, you'll have some of the learning which needs to be done on the SME side, subject matter expertise, and the second one is the software skills side, right? And you've been exposed to multiple situations, nearby caught strike, some competition launch suddenly, some breakdown of the factories, right? Some very different things which either becomes an enabler or a problem, right? Which you have not thought of, right? So dealing that with that continuously and realizing at the helm of it, and that come what may, you'll have to keep learning. It's never going to end and never going to end. And keeping that 1 to 3 year window in terms of moderation, and that okay, is it good enough? Year 1 is generally logged. Year 2 and 3 is what you need to work upon, and spend maybe hour and a half to 2 on a daily basis, or whatever is max possible on a daily basis in terms of investing into yourself. And that actually led to slowly and steadily helping me, giving me that level of confidence, started talking, interacting, started dealing the projects independently. And that became the path for, if you say so, that becoming this synonymous or something. But yeah, supply chain is interesting. So I enjoyed every minute of it. And God is very kind, family is very supportive, and the leaders were able to tolerate me. And that's why I'm here today, sitting and talking to you.
So
pretty blessed.
So Shekhar, you talked about learning and upgrading all the time, right? And I must highlight here that your story is very inspirational to all the individuals coming from the vernacular background. So can you please let the viewers know how you handle the situations at the early stages and built upon to use it as your strength? And you have broken the myth around the vernacular medium education.
Yeah. Broken the myth. Yeah, I mean, sounds pretty good. Feels it's delightful. The credit goes to, my dad, my mom also. Like, I'm like very compassionate and, encouraging us to do or explore. Not very difficult, right? If you are supported by your family, right, and they keep motivating you, or keep encouraging the confidence in your ability, you can do a lot better. The biggest problem for the people who come from either a humble background or a smaller place or a vernacular media, right? The lack of self-confidence, right? You feel like you're intimidated by just the presence of, and the names which I took, let's say the PhD leaders, very well qualified, all IIMs and all that, right? So it's very easy for you to get intimidated, but what you can do is that fire in the belly is the key. Believe in yourself, right? And most importantly, never say die. What's the way out is that you have to learn continuously, and that's what I said in the first question also. Maybe it's a kind of overlapping question, overlapping answer. But having that 1 to 3 year focus, even at the time of my let's say graduation, having a thought process in that what will work for me, being self-aware, saying that this is my strength and this is where I can play. There's no point in trying to do something which you're pretty sure that you can't, right? Then it's not your cup of tea. So identifying your strength, having a very, very strong determination, never say die, as I said, right? and then figuring out the resource management around it, right? And let me explain the resource management part of it, right? Um, and maybe a supply chain guy can only understand that, you're planning, you are theoretically executing, but production is done by somebody else, sales is done by somebody else, you're just coordinating, right? So how do you make sure that you're enough and more network and enough and more resource, right? What's going to come in from where? If you're lacking on a skill, or if you need some input, who can come and talk to you about that? Need to have a kind of a close circle, right? In management language, it is explained by a family board of directors, right? 3 or 4 folks whom you can go to and talk to. Because you're bound to fail. Yes, all the days will not be rosy and pinky, right? You'll have that red day or a dull day or a black day, right? When everything goes against whatever you've planned, right? So somebody needs to kind of calm you down. Somebody needs to kind of, refocus, or, get you back on the track. Somebody just needs to thrash you. And then you have become more confident or whatever, right? You're taking things for granted, right? So I think it's very important for vernacular media is to have an ambition, work towards that, because automatically it's not going to happen. Figure out a little bit of resource management, who can be the supporter, who can be your board of directors, whom we can bounce with, and then execute like there's no plan B. And inshallah, you'll succeed, right? Because when you put your best foot forward, things starts happening according to the plans. Also, there a lot of help comes in from various ways. In the corporate world, people are looking towards your intentions and they start supporting you. The course of IIT, the distance learning course of IIT came that way only, so that if you want to do this, then maybe you'll have to brush up your qualification also. So here is one. Spend some time, and that you'll have to do over and above, right? And that is how I'll close with that. Your growth, for a vernacular media guy is important to break into a good organization, right? And then understand that the inputs on you is going to be an over and above investment, right? As you cannot saying that, I'll work for 8 or 9 hours, and then, my learning and my development also needs to happen in that 9 hours, so that desire to grow, how are you going to manage your time and how are you going to manage your resources needs to be kind of conceptualized and executed better. Last but not the least, and very, very last but not the least, is everybody has a dressing table at home, right? Write something there, because every day, like, you before heading out from your home, and nowadays everybody is at home, unfortunately, so you'll see your dressing table more. But before you heading out, that is something which is written there on the dressing table, which kind of reminds you. And that reminder is always a very, very good practice, because it always, keeps you, kind of focus anytime, so that, okay, this is the goal I'm working for. And that has worked pretty well for me. I still do it when I started to learn the English language as a language, because in the corporate, you can't rely on Hindi. And my graduation was in a Hindi medium. So learning English was the first one. Then clearing this metal management thing was the second one, and multiple. So things kept changing, but the dressing table has been one of the best friend of mine. And I still use it in some other way.
Great insights, Shekhar. In fact, I'm going to try myself. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Right. And Shekhar, we have interacted multiple times in past, and you have mentioned about various critical situations that you have handled in your roles that you have been through, right? So what all critical situations you have handled led to your success in your journey?
Oh, okay. That's actually an interesting one, right? And the first critical situation was in my early days of graduation, right? We were posted, and my dad was posted in Shajapur, which is between Bhopal, Ujjain, and Indore, that kind of that area, right? And then we were transferred to Bhopal, and we have never stayed in that big a place, right? So always in a smaller place, and that was a kind of very discomforting kind of a situation, right? So that, how, again, the intimidating thing, right? So, is it, can I survive there? What will happen to? And I've just completed my graduation, and also you're turning around 1920, so you need to look for a job types, right? Your ability to interact in, let's say, the institutes like an IIT or somewhere where English is at least 50% dominance, and it's not that Bhopal speaks only English, or only 5-10% would be speaking English in Bhopal, but in that in your targeted audience, that was a critical requirement, right? So And when the PNG was about to happen, right, or when I was about to complete my course, I had to get into, my comfort with the English language, right? And when I spoke for the first time, everybody died laughing. I had kind of, and I forget it. That was nowhere English. It was much more Angrezi plus Hindi. Um, but that was the first critical situation, right? It makes you very, very uncomfortable, a little bit demotivating. And Mrs. Meena Rajwade now and Miss Meena Kulkarni then, she kind of took me for 30 minutes and said that you don't have to be afraid or worried about anything. It's not your mother tongue and you have not done this, right? So if everybody is laughing, you also laugh at them, but don't give up, because there are very few people who can break that shackles. Everybody is afraid that everybody will laugh, and that's why they stop. And that was one of the very, very good learning. And from that time onwards, I have never stopped asking questions, or never worried about any decision. What will happen? Will I look stupid? Right? And that's the one critical, situation. And it still happens, despite in all the training programs, you'll say, there's no bad question or there's no stupid question, but people are not asking questions. Not that they have understood everything, but they're keeping quiet. Somebody else will ask for me. Somebody else will ask. That's the person who's going to grow, not you, because you don't have even the guts to ask that question because you'll look stupid. That was the first one. The second one was that once you have started working, you're accountable for results. Again, when it happens for you the first time. And we got into a strike situation, the transport strike situation, and we were short of a raw material. And being the raw and packaging material planner, I had to get that material. And my boss said, "Now's no option. We'll have to shut down the production." And I said, "Yeah, inevitably, that's how it looks like." The truck had started from Mumbai, but was stuck somewhere in between Indore and Bhopal. And this was factory in Mandideep, right, Bhopal. And I just picked up that car and went towards that side. And my boss asked me, saying that, "Karega kya? What are you going to do?" I have no idea. Let's go and explore, right? So when we reached there, an innovative solution, right? They run those matadors. So there's a transport strike, but the passenger matadors were running. Who will take some ₹5 from this place to that place, and they'll accumulate passenger and they'll go. So what we did was we just opened up those seats, we removed the seats, put the material to the length, and sat with the driver, right? And we crossed. So that was very small. We obviously continued production despite the strike and all that. That was the best part of it. But a learning was saying that when you're on the spot, right, you can explore solution. You will never have a solution if you're thinking that somebody else is going to do it for you. Not going to happen. Is you will have to go and do it, right? And generally, again, as I said earlier, help comes from many ways. So the idea was, we were just thinking, and I said, just go and ask him. We'll take him. He said, "वो नहीं जाएगा, वो passenger पे काम है उसका. जितना कमाता है उसका 3 गुना देना जाएगा, right?" So it was a setting which we're trying to explore, and then it worked well. The third was, I believe, has to be a kind of challenging situation when I was in Roa factory, and some of my fellow colleagues, they were going to Mahabaleshwar, and early in the morning, there was a there was a major accident wherein 4 of them lost their lives, and the production was supposed to happen. When Pepsi, if you don't fill up everything in a stipulated time, you have no option but to train. And with the fellows, and the union leaders, we were just talking about what needs to be done, and my guidance to them, because actually there was a conference happening in Delhi, so most of the leaders were in the factory, and by default I was the senior most there, and my suggestion to them was, and that forget about everything else, let's focus on what needs to be done with the human beings, right? We'll go out and help them. We did that with very, very pure intentions, and by the time 4:35, the union fellows and team members, they came back and said, "Shekhar, whatever had to happen has happened. There's no point in causing any losses anywhere, right? I think we can run the factory. Let's go and finish off the production, and then we'll decide what needs to be done tomorrow morning." Again, believing in the intentions of people, right? Your fellow colleagues, everybody wants to help each other, and everybody wants to do their best. You just need to become an enabler and do the right thing. The other things will follow. I just want to be cautious that I'm not sounding like any Baba or Sadhu types, right? But 30 years as you said, right, at the helm of it, if your intentions are good, everything else comes around. And yes, you'll have a very, very typical situation with your unions, with your, let's say, there could be the transport unions, could be, the daily labor union. There's so many times we take stand, which is because somebody's ego has come into play. Instead of looking at the solution, you get stuck into, um, the stands, right? And maybe, that's no way. What is the problem statement? And if you articulate that and you figure out the solution, start looking toward the solution with a very, very right intention and genuine intentions, it shows off. Very important that you'll have to spend time with people and the situation, right? Because as a leader, if you're in a critical situation, you need to be credible. That's very, very important. If your credibility is an issue, you do whatever, nobody's going to listen to you. It's like, the a lot of times it happens is saying that, we could not pull it off. A lot of things depends on the credibility of that leader who is on the spot and what he is saying. If people are going to believe into that, whatever he or she is saying, it happens, right? So when I've stayed with only 3 organizations, that was it. I've not jumped the organization as my CV suggests, right? You stay with them, you understand them, you understand the business, you understand the entire bigger cause and the vision and mission and things like that, and then you start executing. I think it's important is to figure out the problem statement and solve it out. And I still keep saying that, before solving, just be sure that we are aligned on the problem statement. If you're aligned on the problem statement, solution could not be, maybe, you'll have a plan A and B and C, but solution will always lead towards that problem, and that works. Multiple stories, long career, as you know. So we can do this for the next 2-3 hours also, and I'll have plenty of stories. But all in all, great learnings.
So Shekhar, I'm sure that there could be a book written on the situations that you have handled.
Someday.
So the key takeaways, what I can think of is that you should have a never give up attitude. You should always be a solution provider, and for providing the solution, you need to gauge the problem statement right. And next is you have to be empathetic with the team that you're working with. So amazing.
Very clear.
Amazing. Yeah. So I'm sure Shekhar and definitely everyone who is viewing this video would understand that you are the one who rolls up the sleeves and get onto the job and get the hands dirty, right? And then that's how you lead from front, right? So what are the key changes or transformations you brought in your current function to make it more efficient and effective?
They're always situational, right? With an organization like Accenture, you'll have multiple clients and multiple projects, kind of a situation. With, let's say, Pepsi and P&G, you'll have a situation when you're about to launch some product, or you're about to launch opening up a factory or something like that, impacting your supply chain or, let's say, production capability. To my mind, it has always been situational. Anything which happens in terms of transformation, the tools you'll have, RPAs, AI, ML, nowadays blockchain. So everything is new and everything was old. Everything is new today. This will become old maybe 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line. I think the transformation is that where are you versus where are we going to reach, right? That vision, right? And how that is going to happen, right? The biggest problem or biggest, let's say, hurdle in transformation is sometimes the contractual agreements, right? Or sometimes the understanding of the team members of the definition of transformation, because they are stuck in that I need to provide this much by at this cost. This needs to happen and that needs to happen. And in the because of that, you're missing out the bigger picture, right? So I think it's, if you're clear that if you're working for a retailer versus if you're working for an automotive client or, let's say an NGO based approach, right? The solution and approach would be very, very different. So transformation is the key, and it's happening, and there are tools in and out in the market, and we name some of those things. If you want that transformation to happen, then the biggest thing is the change management, right? And how are you going to align the organization towards that change management, or your team towards that change management, your organization as well as your vendor partners, your let's say the targeted customer segment, right? Because everybody goes through change, right? The online retail market was 3 to 6% before COVID. Now it is like almost it's a very, very different number, right? So sometimes situational things also will lead to some amount of transformation and innovation. But mostly it is situational. And, when you're looking for a short-term result, that could be your improvement in the basic matrices, inventory turnarounds and things like that, versus, the way you do the business, right? And the game changes are challenging the status quo, right? Saying that why are we doing something like this? One of the Accenture leader used to call it automatable, right? So then if you are not automating, why you're not automating it? What is the problem? Why it is happening? So no, this is how we do it. Okay, why can't you eliminate this step? This step is not adding any value, right? So that kind of thinking actually starts encouraging, challenging the status quo. The leaders who are driving those changes needs to be aligned on the end outcome. And let's say the budgetary things and all those things become secondary. The transformation, to my mind, is situational. The appetite of taking the risk, and which means how are you going to execute the change management side of it, and how the end looks like. As long as we are aligned on those 2-3 things, then you start figuring out saying that is AI a better option versus can be done with simple RPA. So then next time if you need to do anything much more easier to change and things like that. But in most of the situations, when you talk about the true transformation, you have an end delighted customer or consumer, right? The both in terms of value as well as the time, there's significant saving, jump shift, right? Not incremental. That's how I define. That's how generally we would like to define the transformation, not incremental, right? And the third is that yes, you are impacting the entire global climate in a way which is positive, right? So you're keeping the society and the bigger things also in mind. Slightly Nagpur via Kanpur answer, but transformation generally has, and in every project when we have approached this, including let's say the my previous organization, it was on those lines.
Understood, Shekhar. So change management is something that you must focus upon, and as you mentioned that transformations are never have to go through transitions if you want to bring a change, and transitions are never easy, right?
Never.
So Shekhar, what are the top 3 recommendations or tips that you have got throughout your journey, your professional journey, that you'll give to the industry leaders and the future global thought leaders?
Okay, top three. The first has to be that 1 to 3 year plans, right? What has worked for me and hopefully is still working. So year 1 is actually year 0, right? You're already into that year 1, so it's much more present.
Right.
And then the visibility for the next 2 years.
Right.
The good old days, everybody talk about 5 years plan and all that. It's important and are there, but let's say for leaders who are going to be in around my span, or 3-year visibility helps big time and serves the purpose, right? When I reduce the time span to 3 years, right? The main reason was that the way technology is changing the way we are doing business is an equally important factor, right? So there's no point in planning for something for 5 years when you know that something else will come in and will again disrupt, right? So that is the first thing, that have a plan 1 to 3 years, for you, most importantly for your team, and before your team, your direct reports, right? Because they need to know what's going to happen at our level. Even my next, let's say next line and next line, they should be able to retain people, right? So the 1 to 3 year plan is critical for me, but next 2 row is equally important, right? And as long as everybody ensures that next 2 rows, right, your retention is taken care of. So you're building a team which is capable for you. If the capability is addressed, then they will stay with you and they'll deliver wonders for you, right? So that 1 to 3 year plan for you and your direct reports for the next two rows is very, very important. Moving from that is that, from where the next disruption is going to come in. And when you start working on the capability side, it automatically starts coming in. And this is the new thing which is coming up. We prepare for it, right? But to the speed saying that, okay, now it has started becoming visible and is about to happen, then I think we need to be slightly ahead of that in terms of planning. And that's what I called as the resiliency, right? So the first one is 1 to 3. Second would be resilience. Resilience both in terms of, your basic business continuity, your team and team's capability. If disruption, something like disruption comes in, how we are going to run that entire model. COVID is a very, very big disruption, right? And I don't know if anyone can ever plan for that, right? And you'll have to figure out and, work on that, how quickly we can respond to that situation. And I think, some organizations did far, far superior than, some of the organizations who kind of just lost it out, right? So the resiliency is the key, whether you are doing it for your own self or your corporate or your let's say the clients and others is critical. That's the third thing. The second thing, right? The third is I, me, myself, right? You can't ignore yourself, right? You will go through some or other disruption, right? And in my case, I slipped and broke my knee, right? So for almost year and a half, I was practically limping, right? Till the time the entire rehab got completed. Will it slow down? Answer is yes, right? If you're going to work for 12 to 14 hours a day, you're going to burn out, right? So at what point in time, how do you want to structure your work or your work day or your work month or your work life is what you need to think through, right? What is it which is giving you that extra kick? You can't be in data full day, right? And unless you figure out a way to relax yourself, it could be gymming, it could be running, it could be music, it could be anything, right? But if you're not enriching your own roots, you're going to become a very dry person, and nobody wants to be in around a dry person, right? And in a way, if you're happy, you'll spread happiness. If you are not, you'll spread only negativity and problem, right? So eat well if you like eating, drink well in moderation if you like to drink or anything, something like that. But whatever is your key, 2 or 3 hobbies, which is very, very critical and important, and figure out your time in a way to nurture those hobbies, right? Blocking your own calendar is a good idea. I still don't. I manage my calendar still today. I don't give it to my EA because, let's say, given the position or the hierarchy, at times you are required in practically every meeting. May not be adding value to every meeting, but they want you to be on, right? So yes, you can accept the meeting, but last minute, if you ditch the meeting, most likely will not be cancelled. They'll carry on without you. At times, it is good in terms of building the next line also, but manage your calendar in a way that you can take care of yourself. And if you're good, you'll be able to take care of your ecosystem, like that air hostess, she says, right? दूसरों की सुरक्षा करने से पहले अपना नकाब स्वयं पहने, right? If you're not wearing your own mask, no way you can, if you're not going to survive, how the hell the entire system is going to survive? So those are the 3 things, and which is direct. One thing which I've realized after becoming the general manager, I started realizing one thing, that you'll have to think about the bigger piece, right? A bigger society, the entire carbon footprints and things like that. You may call it CSR, a boundary line CSR, or whatever you feel appropriate, right? But how are you impacting the surroundings around you? How are you impacting positively in around those things? How you're driving those agendas? That's equally critical. When you as a leader start doing it, a lot of like-minded people join you. Some of them will follow you because you see this as a priority or things like that. But as an individual and as a leader, right, you need to believe in that, and you need to figure a way out to make it happen. And again, as I said, once you start making it as a priority, you'll start getting the resources aligned towards that, and you'll start working on that, and that generally pays off in the longer run, because you owe it to society. It's society which has given you everything, and it's your responsibility, to make sure that you are positively impacting that.
One point you mentioned, Shekhar, which is nurturing your hobbies. And I've heard that you are a great singer.
Not yet.
No, definitely we'll have a separate session for that.
Yeah, I love to sing. Yeah, I love to sing, and it's and I go on like Facebook Live, and anytime there are 2 or 3 groups in which I go and sing. My daughter also has joined me now. So between 2 of us, we during the lockdown times, we were continuously going live. And yes, that's a very good exercise, as well as a very, very relaxing feeling. You feel pretty good at it. Once you do it, when the song comes out pretty good, you feel happy, and people call up and say, "Okay, बहुत दिन हो गए आपने live नहीं किया, क्या हो गया?" अच्छा, मैं करता हूँ. So yeah, it makes you feel good. But yes, I love singing, and I'm a very good singer. I can say that.
Great, then I'll be definitely joining you on your next live.
Sure thing.
Right.
Everyone would love to.
So, Shekhar, the aspiring future thought leaders would like to be guided to avoid mistakes in their career path. Right? So, getting that guidance from you, Shekhar, would definitely be a value add for them. So, can you throw some lights on the mistakes that future thought leaders must avoid to align their goals better?
The mistakes, the common mistakes, right? Like the top three types you said, right? Yeah. See, by default, everyone who is rising to the in the hierarchy is assertive, if not aggressive, right? In this industry, being aggressive also is not a very bad thing. Sometimes it's kind of accepted, which is a bad thing to my mind, right? Being assertive is the key, but you need to be sure that you're not becoming intimidating, right? Wherein people are afraid of speaking. And maybe a good practice could be that you have your thoughts, but if you're seriously looking for some thoughts to come in from the team members, make sure that you speak in the last, right? But the moment you say that this is what your opinion is, like it or not, everybody starts figuring out a reason to support that. Or they'll it'll start becoming okay if boss is saying this or Shekhar is saying that. That's what needs to happen types, right? So one good practice, that speak in the last and before I hear everyone. That is the first one. Second is that we take things for granted, right? And that is a status quo. This will continue. Never the case, right? So how are you challenging yourself? Being proactively alert, staying alert is the key. It's not about pricing or even the risk, right? Time and again we keep talking about the camera industry, right? Mobile phone industry actually killed it, right? So from where the competition is coming, you need to be very, very sure and aware. The end game is value, and value could be either plain money or an enriched skill sets, a delighted customer and consumer, anything. So what is it which you're solving for? The biggest mistake which I have seen happening across, right, and multiple others. And when we talk, courtesy LinkedIn or some other forums, when we talk, my first question generally is, what are you trying to solve for? And trust me, even today, 70% people get stuck on that answer, because when you start questioning why, but how it will have, but this is not done, then they start realizing that, Shekhar, maybe, I think either my point of view has prevailed, or we have missed this angle, or maybe the client was unable to articulate, or the end customer was unable to articulate this, right? So I think getting focused on the right problem, what you're solving for, is the key. That's what I'll say. The technology and other things, at times overrated, overhyped, essential, important, very true, all that, I get it, but that's easy, right? Where is the Gangotri, right? What is it actually you're trying to solve is the key to my mind. And that's where the maximum number of mistakes happen, because you complete your project maybe for a couple of months only to realize that I don't think I asked this. And then you realize, okay, now the music begins. Okay, so then what do you want? And then you have to do the course correction. So I think it's key that we get the problem statement right, and then figure a way out to execute that.
Amazing insights, Shekhar. Well, that was an amazing conversation with you, and I'm sure the young leaders would get inspired by the insights given by you. We wish you and the viewers all the best in the future endeavors. Thank you once again, Shekhar, for being on the call today with Global Thought Leaders.
Pleasure. Looking forward for many more interactions, and thank you for the opportunity, actually. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Pleasure is ours. Keval, you can go ahead with the question.
Yeah. So, Shekhar, when we started this conversation, initially we really loved that you still are in touch and you still remember the leadership qualities from the great leaders that you've named. I specifically have come across two types of leaders and just want your thoughts on it. One is a good leader and one is a bad leader, right? So are you on the same track where I am right now, or you ignore the bad ones and you only go with the good ones and continue with the qualities and adapt and explore? How does that work, Shekhar?
Okay, so there's no bad leaders, right? Okay. To my mind, right? Because I was fortunate enough or blessed enough, right? The leaders are like either parents or gods, right? You know, and I say this, to my leaders, to my team members, and then when you are when you're doing something to someone, right? When you're writing a bad appraisal or a good appraisal, the life becomes very good or very bad. You write bad appraisals, then is a performance improvement, maybe an exit. Good appraisals means, yes, promotion, better increments, better variable, or whatever, right? There will be leaders who will teach you, like VSS Chaudhary, PepsiCo, Roa Factory. I still follow his style of people practice, right? Very assertive leader, amazingly approachable, but very assertive, right? And my combination is somewhere between Chow and my mother types, right? There's Kaushal Modi, right? Span of attention is like minute and a half at most, right? You have to figure out way to communicate with him in that much of time, else you're gone, right? Jal, my current boss, at times brutal, but out of it, everybody wants your best, right? You will be surprised that I remember more difficult bosses, right, or difficult leaders, because at that point in time, it was difficult to deal with them, but actually that added loads of value, right? So when somebody is talking difficult or tough to me, I listen much more attentively, right? Because first of all, that person has the guts, and most likely he means right. And say, "Hey, you're great," and all that. Everybody can do that, right? But those direct feedbacks, right? Have been very, very critical. For the first 10 years of my career, I was always continuously receiving the feedback, to calm down, because I was kind of fireball, and I have all empathies and sympathies with my bosses who were dealing with me. And I got into, let's say, multiple feedback situation, if not the problem situation. But the good leaders who were not so good at that point in time, when they were giving that direct feedback, at that point in time, they were like bad bosses, that you feel like you're furious when you're coming out of that cabin. Then you sit down, and either somebody tells you, that, look, he's right, or you realize when you're, a little more calmer. So, good leaders throughout, because they got me back on track, and they are my board of directors, Ranjit Menon, and he just got retired, Accenture, my Accenture boss. And I told him that you'll be in my family board, right? So he says, yeah, call me anytime. But it's not that his style, he'll become silent, right? So you need to then figure out, right? So okay. Sorry, I went a little unstructured in terms of answering, but answer to your question is, there are no bad leaders. There could be bad managers and bosses. You may get stuck into politics sometimes. That's the reality of the life. You get advantage sometimes. Sometimes you just get disadvantage, right? But nobody does everything by intention, right? It's just it happens. Situation happens at times. There's no point in keeping it to heart. If you have not liked some behavior of your boss or anything, definitely be honest enough to set up time and give them that feedback and that, look, I did not like this. I understand maybe I've goofed up, right? But it was not by intention I goofed up. These are circumstances, because at the spur of the moment, at times when the heat is very high, you may get into a difficult situation, but it's the same guy who has supported you, or same leader who has supported you so many times. So believe in him or her, and stay honest, and it kind of comes out, and you'll be happy again.
Well, I guess that really answers, and it also changes my definition of good leader and bad.
Bad leader.
Yeah. So it's not going to be bad leader. It's going to be difficult bosses at
Yeah.
times that we have to handle.
And there's there's a famous writer. I'm forgetting the name. The guy who wrote "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." Shit, the name is not coming to my mind. I met him in Mumbai. There was a training program, and he said that you'll have to keep working on your articulation as and more you grow up, right? You'll go, you'll hear only the bad news, right? So you'll have to be a lot more motivated than what you were when you're at a junior stage. And also, the span of attention is going to go down, so you should be able to crisply tell them. I don't think I have mastered that art yet. Still at times, get into the details, which is maybe not required at that level. But yeah, that's how the life is. We keep learning. I hope I'm still learning.
Absolutely. And I guess this word learning, and one quality that I'll be taking from this session directly from you, Shekhar, as an honor, I would say, is a never give up attitude. No matter whatever situation turns up, you have handled, and yes, as we met you in past multiple times, and there are many things that you've discussed with us. And Zishan rightly mentioned that there can be a book that can be written, Shekhar, with the situations that you've handled. And trust me, future leaders will have a lot to learn, and they will know more from the session that we've conducted today. And yes, the mistakes that they were about to make, I guess that will be a spotlight that this is something that I have to avoid and need to ensure that I change the gear to the right track and move on from there. So thank you so much, Shekhar, for throwing this amazing lights on certain points which will really evolve many careers, and also future leaders like us also. I would love to be in that seat and learn a lot from you, Shekhar. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. It really means a lot to us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity and the time and the
patience. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Good day.
Good day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye. You too. Bye-bye.